When it comes to sticking to a workout plan, resisting the temptation to quit early, or showing up on days when motivation runs low, we often credit willpower. But behind that familiar term lies a highly sophisticated system rooted in the prefrontal cortex, the brain's command center for decision-making, impulse control, and long-term planning. This region doesn't just help you resist a second dessert or keep from snapping in a meeting, it's also deeply involved in how you regulate your behavior during physical exertion. Whether you're lacing up your shoes or pushing through the last set of squats, it's your prefrontal cortex quietly steering you toward discipline. Located just behind the forehead, the prefrontal cortex, PFC, is the brain's executive hub. It's responsible for executive function, which includes goal setting, evaluating consequences, and aligning actions with future outcomes. During exercise, this region plays a critical role in translating intentions into sustained action, especially under stress. For instance, when your muscles are burning and your lungs are straining, it's the PFC that helps override the primitive urge to stop and instead reminds you of your larger purpose, whether that's health, performance, or self-respect. One of the PFC's most vital contributions to exercise discipline is impulse control. Physical fatigue often comes with a flood of emotional and sensory signals urging you to stop. Your limbic system, especially areas like the amygdala, may react to discomfort with avoidance, seeking relief. But the PFC serves as a counterbalance, weighing the short-term relief of quitting against the longer-term reward of pushing through. This interplay is part of a neurocognitive model known as the central governor theory, which proposes that the brain regulates physical exertion to prevent harm but can adjust these limits depending on mental input. In other words, you may be capable of more than your body initially signals if your PFC stays in control. Perhaps even more interesting is the role of the PFC in forward planning, that is, the ability to imagine and prioritize delayed gratification. People with stronger PFC activation tend to approach exercise not as a moment-to-moment judgment of how they feel, but as a process aimed at achieving something bigger than the current discomfort. This kind of future-oriented thinking allows them to plan around barriers, stay consistent despite emotional fluctuations, and build habits that last. Even decisions like laying out your workout clothes the night before or scheduling a run after work engage the prefrontal cortex's planning mechanisms, tiny acts of foresight that compound into long-term success. Fatigue, however, doesn't just challenge your body, it taxes your brain, too. As physical exertion increases, blood flow is prioritized toward motor areas and away from the PFC, potentially weakening its influence. That's why decision-making becomes harder during intense effort. You may feel less rational, more reactive, and more tempted to bail. But just as muscles adapt to resistance, the PFC strengthens with use. Repeated experiences of pushing through fatigue or sticking to a routine when you don't feel like it train this region to perform more reliably under stress. Essentially, every disciplined workout builds the very brain circuits that make future discipline easier. There's also evidence that exercise itself improves prefrontal cortex function. Aerobic training has been linked to increased gray matter volume in the PFC and enhanced connectivity with other cognitive regions. This creates a virtuous cycle. Better PFC function leads to more consistent exercise, which in turn strengthens the PFC. This may help explain why regular exercisers often demonstrate better self-regulation in other areas of life, from emotional control to productivity. Importantly, training the PFC doesn't require punishing willpower. It thrives on small, repeated acts of deliberate action. Choosing to move even when it's inconvenient. Pushing one more minute when your legs say stop. Planning your workouts instead of leaving them to chance. These are all acts of cognitive discipline that reinforce the brain's ability to override impulse and stick to purpose. In the end, the power to follow through on your fitness goals isn't just about grit, it's about cognition. The prefrontal cortex is the seat of your intentions, and with regular use, it becomes more efficient, more resilient, and more attuned to long-term rewards over short-term relief. Willpower, it turns out, isn't something you either have or don't. It's a neural skill you can build, and exercise is one of the most effective ways to strengthen it.